Good morning, Britain. Welcome back. 7:24. Environmental group Extinction Rebellion has agreed, check this, to guard the London Marathon from protesters on Sunday after admitting disruptive activism wasn't changing opinions.
Meanwhile, Just Stop Oil members press ahead with bold tactics, fresh from interrupting the World Snooker Championships on Monday. So, what do you think? Which group's methods are the most effective in raising awareness of climate change? Maddie Dunn has more.
They've blocked bridges, shut down runways and swarmed famous landmarks, even gluing themselves to Buckingham Palace. Extinction Rebellion was formed in 2018, using widespread disruption and mass arrest as a tactic to generate attention. Next came Just Stop Oil, formed in February last year, in a mission to ensure the government commits to halting new fossil fuel licensing and production. Supporters tend to take aim at cultural institutions and invading events like the BAFTAs, the Grand Prix and even the World Snooker Championship. Neither group has gone unchallenged.
What purpose does that serve?
What about the accusation of hypocrisy, that actually you owe your lifestyle just as much to oil as the rest of us?
But Extinction Rebellion has recently drastically changed its tune, now championing peaceful protest instead. Whilst Just Stop Oil maintains that disruption and destruction are essential to spark change in the face of irreversible climate change.
So which climate group's tactics work best? Well, to discuss this, we're joined by Just Stop Oil member James Skeet, who's ploughing on with disruption, and founder of Extinction Rebellion, Clare Farrell. So you're taking a different approach, Clare. What's going to be happening at the London Marathon this weekend, and what isn't going to be that you might have done before?
Well, I mean, we've never disrupted the London Marathon before, so there's no change in
in
tactics
other events and bits of life.
What's happening, and people should come down and meet us, incidentally, from Friday to Monday, is there's going to be a very large gathering of people outside Westminster to call attention to the democratic failure. I don't know about you, but I didn't vote for climate collapse, and the government are not mitigating against it. Therefore, they are failing in their duty as servants of the public to protect this nation, to support a safe future. So we're going there to say, let's get broader base of people together to say, actually, the problem is in the places where people hold an enormous amount of power and responsibility. And I don't know about you, but we're on course for collapse. That is not an extreme thing to say. That's an ordinary statement which comes from every expert in the entire world. And I don't want to live through collapse because we didn't do anything to try and mitigate it. And I certainly don't want to live through the state of collapse that we anticipate under a system which is so incapable of responding sanely and sensibly to rational information.
Put your case this morning. We'll be doing so again in a reasonable and rational way. James, there's a lot of people watching this show, millions watching this show. They've heard that case, climate collapse. That's a big piece of information for people to take in and worry about and try and take action from this morning. Why not stop there? Why disrupt the lives of ordinary people? Why see things like we saw at the snooker championships, which upset many people who enjoy going along to events like that and watching them as relief from many of the worries of their lives, including climate change. So why go further and do that?
Well, firstly, just to get everyone up to speed, as you're well aware, the cost of living crisis and the climate crisis have both been brought about in large part due to our dependence on fossil fuels. So what Just Stop Oil is calling for is no new licensing or consents for any fossil fuel exploration in the UK. It's an absolute no-brainer demand. It's a logical first step in dealing with these multiple crises that we're faced. And we're calling on everyone who understands how important this is to join us on a slow march from 24th of April and sign up at juststopoil.org.
OK, which I'm sure you would support that kind of thinking, wouldn't you, as well? But you're not just calling on them to support a march. You're going ahead with severely disruptive tactics.
Yes,
Why?
Absolutely. We need to look at sort of the case studies throughout history, whether we look at the civil rights movement, the suffragettes movement, whether we look at disabled people chaining themselves to buses in the 90s. You know, history is littered with countless examples where this is effective. Now, when the last section of the IPCC report was released, it made it to page 11 of the Daily Mail, below two women arguing over their geraniums, right? After the action that was taken on Monday, the demand was put on every single major newspaper. That is the efficacy of disruptive tactics.
So you think you get the message out better by grabbing headlines. Is that part of the problem? That people know that message, they know that there's a crisis, but unless you get it right in their face, you won't get your message across to the powers that be.
Well, I think one of the problems that is highlighted by this is actually the media. And, you know, I was doing an interview yesterday talking about the kind of manufactured rage. Like, what happened at that snooker game was children's powder paint. And yet you have, like, the establishment and the media going, oh, it was so scary. It's a thing that you give to toddlers. It's not scary. What's scary is, like, floods that take down thousands of people with them. What's scary is 1 million people in a famine in Madagascar eating shoe leather to try and stay alive. Like, the future is scary, not what these people are
why
doing.
have you changed tack, though, with your strategy process? Because, you know, you were doing some pretty disruptive things, but now you decided you're not going to do that anymore. Why the change of heart there?
Well, I think the devil's in the detail. So we said at the start of the year we would not do things that were wholesale public disruption. So you've seen Just Stop Oil go and climb on gantries with the intention that that'll close a motorway. We said we'll do things that disrupt where power lies. We'll go to the banks, the fossil fuel sector, the government, the pillars of power, the media, the judiciary even. We'll shine a light on the things that are keeping business as usual alive when we know it has to change. And in doing that, if we do that, then will you all get the message and show up? There's an awful lot of people who've been going, well, I agree with what you say, but I don't like what you do. If your house was on fire, would you have a conversation about party politics or your opinions about what's the right thing to do? No, you would act in line with, like, getting everyone out of the house and being safe. You wouldn't say, I'm not bringing you because you're a Tory. You'd say, I'm trying to help everyone.
So
you're nodding while Clare's speaking.
Response.
Absolutely.
And you're putting the case for direct action. Do you actually agree more than you're saying?
Yes, I mean, the only real division is between this criminal government who are engaged in genocidal policies, the billionaire class who own them, and everyone else, right? I think what we're all seeing and what the British people are appreciating is that the only real leverage that we have over this criminal government and the billionaire class is through disruptive action. Now, the nurses know that, the train drivers know that, the junior doctors know that, OK?
But the public don't like what you're doing. I think it's
I appreciate
under
that it's
20%
uncomfortable, yes.
that they don't like what you're doing.
But
so you're not winning hearts.
They're not going to like the future that they're being given either, you know. And I think we took a view at the beginning of the year that a lot of people are on strike, a lot of people can't pay their bills, a lot of children are going hungry. It's a disgrace what's happening in this country, and an awful lot of people agree with that. Yeah. And a lot of it is to do with systemic failure of this government to actually deal with the problems that are before it.
And we have to understand why that is as well. You know, last year, Conservatives took 3.5 million in legalised bribes from the fossil fuel lobby, right? Our politicians have been bought. Your government is knowingly taking a course of action that's going to kill hundreds of millions of people, and they're going to kill your children. I don't mean to ruin your
the government
but
would disagree with that. They would say it's part of a business that generates wealth and that many people rely on.
Yes, that's the price that they're putting on our children's lives. Yes, it's criminal and it's genocidal.
OK, just come back to the issue of tactics and your strategy. Do you sort of, when you decide, well, OK, you all get together, go, let's disrupt the World Snooker Championships, do you sort of get together and go, well, actually, we know this is going to annoy a lot of people, but you take that as a sort of opportunity cost in a way to go, well, we're going to annoy a lot of people, but at least we'll get heard. Is that the sort of strategy?
We're already being disrupted, OK?
Yeah, I know.
Last year, 60 families lost their homes in wildfires as a result of 25,000 fires that were started when we hit 40 degrees. There were thousands of excess deaths. 33 million people were displaced in Pakistan last year.
You two are agreeing on the points, and there will be many people watching that agree on those points. The purpose of this debate, if you'll forgive me, and we have had stacks more, dozens, hundreds more people saying they don't want disruption because they feel they're under pressure, and you are breaking the little person in a bid to save the planet. So do you have that in your mind? Well, I've got it here. I'm just saying what some people have watched it, and maybe others that will come in later that say differently.
Well, some people are agreeing with
in your head, OK, someone's going to be disrupted, it will be a pain for them, but we have to go for the bigger picture.
I think we have to assess what are our values. Are we really the sort of people who are going to sit and watch as our homes burn down in wildfires, as we lose crop failure around the world, we've lost up to 50% of some of our fruit and veg crops this year, OK? We're on course for famine and civilizational collapse. In the face of that, what will it take for you to emotionally connect with the reality of what's happening, OK? Because I feel like whenever I have these conversations, I feel like I'm talking to someone with 6 inches of cotton wool wrapped around their heads. It's like, you've got to emotionally connect with what's happening.
You're not talking to me.
I know, Kate.
She's always got cotton wool wrapped around her head.
Yeah, I've got cotton wool inside my head. It's not that. We're talking about how the two different groups have made a decision to engage hearts and minds.
Yeah.
And you're telling me your case.
I kind of have some sympathy, and I think a lot of people would, because in a way I'm sat here now going, I probably would not have heard of Extinction Rebellion had it not been for some of the action that you took, that you undertook last year, and people would not have heard of Just Stop Oil if it hadn't been for the snooker championship. So I kind of trying to think, well, actually, do you feel that you need to make this noise?
OK.
In order to just get heard, and there's an opportunity cost, there will be disruption. It's got to be part of your strategy.
Well, let's look what's happened since the Just Stop Oil campaign started, OK? Now, all major parties agree with Just Stop Oil's demand. We've got a cross-parliamentary committee agreeing with our demand, calling for a wartime effort on housing insulation and an end date to fossil fuels, right? We've got banks divesting from directly investing in fossil fuels.
But hang on, James,
we are going to win this, and our government will be held to account for the crime of genocide. Mark my words.
How far would you go? We've got the King's coronation coming up. Is that off limits? Would you do something disruptive there? Will you throw something at the King's carriage?
Just the Oil will do whatever is non-violently necessary. We'll do whatever is non-violently necessary to save us.
Wimbledon's coming up. Will we see you on centre court?
I'm not a party to that information. I'll probably find out when you do.
Is it an option? It's an option.
Everything's an option. Look, our civilization is on course.
Are you going to glue your hands to this desk?
No.
Right, OK. Where are your hands?
Honestly, look. I know it's unpleasant. I know it's horrible to think about. But we are on course for civilizational collapse. Right? When crops fail, people die. Civilization.
OK, let's talk about the
We've got to emotionally connect with the reality of the situation. We are in the most critical situation we've ever seen. OK?
Just quickly, how long have we got? When you talk about climate collapse,
we've got no time. We've wasted all the time, OK? There's a massive campaign of mis and disinformation that's lasted for about a generation, facilitated, I will say, by the mainstream media and by the governments of the world to try and confuse people.
End of the century?
No, not the end of the century. We're going to pass probably 1.5 degrees this decade and probably 2 by 2040. We are going to see at least 2 metres of sea level rise, possibly 4, possibly 10. London doesn't survive 4 metres of sea level rise. Coastal cities don't survive that. It's coming in our lifetime. Crop failure and famine and massive disruption to the world's food systems, which, by the way, doesn't just mean that we don't have toilet roll on the shelves. It means we don't have enough food to eat. It means we don't have a good medicine supply for people who need it.
You've both made very powerful cases. How would you take issue with each other?
Claire makes an excellent point in the fact that if the corporate media didn't have their snouts firmly between the buttocks of the 5 billionaires who own 80% of UK media, none of this would be necessary. Disruptive tactics wouldn't be necessary because the truth would be getting appropriately communicated to the British people, and we could have millions of people out on the street, and this government could be gone in a jiffy, right? That's the power. These tactics can unseat dictators. The fact is that this system only operates with our cooperation and consent, and we can withdraw it at any time. It's just a choice. Get out onto the streets, join us on the streets on the 24th of April.
Would like to disrupt this because she is very passionate about your cases. Where is she, Laura? Laura, you're hiding behind the camera over there. I can't see you directly. What would you like to say about tactics? Because we know you're passionate about the message that both these groups are putting forward.
Well, I went to Greta Thunberg's book launch earlier on this year, and she was asked that exact question. And I think that she was just saying, you know, she doesn't really condone either side. It's more what individuals think is really important, but it's raising awareness. And I think the most important thing we can do to tackle climate change is to talk about it. And that is something that I'm really passionate about. It's something we talk about here on Good Morning Britain a lot more than most mainstream news programmes. It's something we give a lot of time to. So, you know, I know our audience understand it and they understand the gravity of the situation. And some people take different tactics, but I think for us it's just important that we just keep talking about it.
Thank you, Laura.
I mean, it's fascinating, but I think you both make some very valid points. I mean, there have been a lot of people that have actually said they're annoyed at disruption, but there are some people who agree with you as well.
I mean, you may hate...
You're at the London Marathon. What if a group, Stop Oil or another group, starts to disrupt it? What would you do to stop them? Would you go as far as stopping them causing a disruption? What if somebody, came along was disrupting your peaceful demonstration?
Well, some people are probably planning to disrupt our peaceful demonstration. That's what happens in a democracy, isn't it? People go out and they make a noise and they disagree and they do it loudly and respectfully. We do it peacefully and non-violently. That's what we're about. So, it's a massive problem that mainstream media has had no story to write about, that we're going to do this, or we're going to disrupt the coronation, or we're going to disrupt the marathon. So instead, the media goes, but what if you did do that? That's not the story. We've literally held a press conference and said, that's not what we're doing. And then everyone's like, but what if you do? That's not a story, guys. The news is about what actually exists.
I wasn't asking you that, actually.
What
I was
may
asking
happen
about...
in the future, hypothetically, if everyone was more frightened of peaceful people. It's really crucially important that we get as many people down to Parliament over the weekend to meet our movements and pull the big numbers.
You may hate Just Stop Oil, but your children will most likely wish we'd done more.
I didn't say I hate it, but listen, thank you very much for joining us. James Skeet, who's from Just Stop Oil and founder of Extinction Rebellion, Clare Farrell. Thanks for joining us this morning. That debate will rage on, I'm sure.
I bet it's raging in your home right now. Keep in touch. Let us know. Have they convinced you? Have they changed your minds? Have they made you aware? We've had a very reasonable debate this morning, so it's good to get those issues out and talked about, as Laura says. And here she is again with the weather for today.